Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel for this three-part series of videos on all of the homes I've ever lived in. I have moved a lot in my life and I thought it would be fun to share with you some of the reasons why we've moved and the different homes that I've lived in and memories specific to those houses or homes. Not memories about things that happened while I was living there, but things specific to the property, or else I'll just be here forever. I've always been passionate about home and the concept of home, and growing up I always just wanted to have my own home, and I never expected to be such a nomad, but there's always seemed to be a good reason to move. And the longest I've ever lived in a house was just over 3 years. So now finally we are settled. For the first time in my life I feel settled, and we plan to be in this house indefinitely. Never say never. Who knows what future move we might make, maybe to be closer to grandchildren if our kids move away and start a family. But for now we're staying put and we are settled. As you know, I have lived in South Africa, England and New Zealand, and so those are the three different videos that I'm going to make, sharing the story of our homes in those three different countries. I'm going to include as much footage and extra photographs as I can, so if you are just listening to this video rather than watching it, you might want to check back on your screen to see some of the things that I'm talking about. So starting off in South Africa, I was born in Roodepoort, which used to be the Transvaal, which is now Gauteng, and I don't remember obviously my first homes because like I was a baby. I don't know how many first homes I had up there before we moved to Cape Town. I am aware of one in a place called Florida, not Florida, America, obviously Florida in what was then the Transvaal, and this is how the house looked. I don't have any memories, like I said, of the house, and I don't know if there were other homes involved before we moved, but that's one that I'm aware of. After my brother passed away when I was 3, our family moved down to Cape Town, which is about, I want to say about a 12 to 14 hour drive from where we used to live. So brand new fresh start, moved down there and rented a house in a suburb of Cape Town called Monte Vista. I was 3 years old when this happened, so the only memories I really have of this house were the wooden parquet floors, and there were black wrought iron gates on the living room. Here's a picture of me standing in front of the gates. You can see the wooden floors. I also remember the above ground pool in the back garden, which we had some of the time. And I also remember playing in the back garden with the ball, and the ball rolled behind a tree, and I reached for the ball and I saw something that I thought initially was a tortoise, because in South Africa you would just have a tortoise like wander into your garden, and I thought it was a tortoise. It was about this size, and when I looked again it was actually a spider, and I remember running to get my dad to like take care of the spider. Ugh. Another memory I have of that house is it had like a slate tile porch. I'll insert a picture here showing you the porch. Well, that's a picture of me, but you can kind of see the floor of the front porch, or like front stoop, in this picture. And the edge of the porch had like a lip, a slightly raised lip, and we used to flood the porch with water in the summer, and then the hot slate or whatever material it was would heat up the water, and we would kind of like wallow in this water. So we were in that house I think for around about 2 years, and then my parents were able to buy a house in a nearby suburb called Boertesig. That house was on 4 Mostert Street in Boertesig, and I lived there for about 15 years before I moved out of home. It started out as a 3-bedroom 1-bathroom house, but my dad actually built on. He obviously had people help him do it, but my memories are of my dad single-handedly building onto our house, and it eventually became a 5-bedroom house with a shower room, a bathroom, a storage room, and an extra like lounge area or like craft room. I remember the pine ceiling in the lounge. I remember our patterned couches. This was after they had been reupholstered. I remember this carpet. Check out the carpet. Can you stand it? It was eventually recarpeted into kind of a neutral brownish mix. Initially when we moved in, the walls in the living area had orange wallpaper. It was like a textured wallpaper, and when we went to strip the wallpaper off, there were all these swear words written, like spray painted and painted on the walls. I don't know what went on in that house before we moved in. I am also pretty sure that that house was haunted. I never saw a ghost. My older sister claims that she saw a man, but weird ass things happened in that house, and I'm convinced it was haunted. Just weird things, like a whole block of tiles falling off the wall in the bathroom with no prior warning, no loose tiles, they just boom, suddenly fell off. Or there was a door leading from like the dining area into the passageway where the bedrooms were, and my parents would leave that door closed if my sister or I were out late, and then, you know, the light in the living area could be left on for us. And so we'd come in and, you know, lock up and everything, and then turn off the light. But before turning off the light, we'd open that door to the passage, make sure it was completely open against the wall, turn off the light and go to walk down the passage in the dark to the bedrooms, and the door would be half closed and you'd walk into it. Like, no breeze or anything, just weird things like that. I used to have the experience very often where I'd be falling asleep, like before I was actually asleep, like it's not a nightmare. I'd be in my bed at night waiting to go to sleep. I'd turn the light out, and this feeling of utter terror would overtake me, and I would just be frozen in complete fear and just like praying my heart out because of the utter fear and terror and horror that I would feel. And I don't know why, and it's never happened since moving out of that house, but weird stuff going on in that house. I mentioned that I remembered my dad building on the extension. That was quite a big project, obviously. It went over a long time. He was fitting it in around his full-time job, getting this done. I remember my mom being on the roof helping my dad like pull roof sheets up onto the roof to fit the roof, and just being terrified. And the neighbors complained that my mom had been on the roof and was like spying on them. Meanwhile, she was so terrified she couldn't even open her eyes. On the one side, we had neighbors who we were not like in a feud. I think they hated us, but they copied everything that we did. We built on an extension on the house, they built an extension. I mean, it was like 2 meters long. It was no point even doing it, but they had to build an extension. We got a pool, they got a pool. We got a caravan, they get a caravan. They would just do everything to copy us, and they were constantly causing trouble for us. Speaking of a pool, we used to have an above ground pool, which you can see here, and my dad built like a structure where you could climb up a ladder, and there was like a little deck that you could dive off into the pool. He also built loads of other things like a swing set and monkey bars and a seesaw that would go up and down but would also spin around. So he would load up my sister on one, my older sister on one end, and my younger brother and sister on the other to kind of balance, and then he would spin them, and I'd be like, I don't want to borrow this. I'm not into adrenaline activities. But anyway, going back to the pool. So we had this above ground pool, and we eventually put in an in-ground pool, and I can't remember the actual digging process. We obviously had some help doing that. It was dug by hand, I believe. And then the pool was carried in and fitted, and I remember this happening. You can see pictures here of that being done. My dad had to remove the side gate so that the pool could fit down the side of the house. Here's an arrow showing which one is me watching the process. Once it was in, it looked really good, and it was it had brick paving around, and we had lots of fun in there. And here is a picture which I have to insert just to show you how cute Grant and I looked when we were young and tanned and fit and sexy. I only have a couple of pictures of my bedroom. I actually moved, we all like swapped bedrooms. It was musical bedrooms. I moved around the house, like I had eventually slept in every single bedroom, but this is the bedroom I remember the most. It was kind of a little annex off the house. I asked for a window for my birthday one year. It didn't have a window on the one side. It had a very small window kind of high up on the wall, which you can see here. And the reason for that is this bedroom actually had a separate entrance, and this was for our live-in maid or housekeeper, which was quite common to have in South Africa, especially then, to have a nanny slash housekeeper in your employment. And this was going to be her bedroom. She actually disappeared once. She went home for the weekend and we never saw her again, and my dad went looking for her, and we don't know what happened to her. Her name was Jane, and I loved her dearly, but Jane never came back, so we ended up using that room as one of our bedrooms, and I ended up in this room. But because it only had that small window, which was for Jane's privacy and for ours as well, when we were like in the back garden, it did have another window on the end. That wasn't the only window, but that's the wall where the sun would stream in, and there was no window. So I asked for a window for my birthday, and my dad put one in for me, and it was amazing. It made a huge difference. Anyway, so my bedroom had pink metal pelmets on the curtains. It had these pastel striped curtains and matching duvet cover. You can see pictures of Grant and I in my bedroom. I had a desk which I painted pink, and I used to switch my room around all the time, change the positions of the furniture. I wish I had more pictures, but these are literally the only pictures. I got married 6 weeks after I turned 20, and that was the first time I had left home, and Grant and I moved to our own place. Now, we had bought a house in Tableview in a complex, or like a housing estate called San Antonio, and it was brand new. It was still busy being built. We bought our house plot and plan, but it wasn't ready yet when we got married. So in the meantime, we moved into the same housing complex, and we stayed in a 1-bedroom semi-detached little place that we rented. This was number 7 San Antonio, Devon Valley Way in Tableview. It had a kitchen open plan onto the living room, and then it had a bedroom and a bathroom, and that was it. It was tiny. It didn't have a shower, it just had a bath, and like the bathroom was off the bedroom. So if you had guests and they wanted to use the loo, they'd have to go into the bedroom, into the bathroom. It was so fun to stay there. We were kind of playing house. It was fun to be near our house that was being built in the same little housing complex, so that we could walk over in the evening and check out the progress. I'll get to that in a minute. But while we lived there, we were just kind of learning how to be married, and we would have friends over and hang out. You can see I had my bedroom curtains in the living room because that's all I had. I think we borrowed Grant's grandmother's couch. I can't remember whose couch it was. It was like a couch and an armchair that you can see here. This is my friend Tanya sitting on it, and it had like little daisies on. So we didn't have any furniture. We had a bed, a washing machine, and a fridge. Like, that's all we had. We bought the cheapest bar stools ever just so we had something to sit at the breakfast bar. We were just making do and waiting to move into our own home. So the house that we were having built was at 53 San Antonio, Devon Valley Way in Tableview, and it was a freestanding 3-bedroom 2-bathroom house on 52 square meters. 52 square meters. You'll have to look up what that is in square feet, but it is tiny, and I do not know how they fit an open plan living room, kitchen, 3 bedrooms, an ensuite shower room, and a bathroom into that footprint, but they did. And we were stoked. We thought, this is living the life. We were going to buy a 2-bedroom semi-detached house, but Grant's parents convinced us to buy the 3-bedroom detached because they thought it would be a better investment. And I remember we paid 160,000 Rand to buy that house. All of the carpets were grey, all of the walls were white, and we decorated very, very minimally. We didn't have a lot of money at all. You can see pictures here. If you're wondering who the sassy redhead is, that is my friend Leith, and she came over and we were taking photos of my house to send to my cousin Mary, who was in America. So that's why she's posing and showing off the rooms. But I have my bedroom curtains. We bought navy blue curtains for the living room. We ended up buying a second-hand like couch set that was kind of ugly but super comfortable. I had navy blue curtains in the bedroom, and you can see me posing with this rose. It's like a fake, like a silk rose that I spray painted gold, and I was so pleased with myself because it went with the whole like gold and navy theme that I had going on in the bedroom. This picture is not me sitting on the toilet. Well, I am sitting on the toilet, but I'm not like going to the loo. I'm just posing so Leith could go outside and take a picture through the window to show a tiny snippet of the ensuite because it was so tiny. So in the ensuite I had burgundy towels and the Kim Anderson pictures on the walls, and then in the bathroom, which here's Leith showing us the bath, we had grey, like grey marbly tiles in both the bathroom and the ensuite. And the bathroom I painted peach, and then I had green towels to go with it. One of the things I remember from that home is it was brand new, so obviously there's going to be a few teething problems along the way as you kind of settle in, and it's just been built, no one's ever lived there. And we had problems with our toilets. The toilet was backing up all the time, and so we had obviously a grace period to like iron out these teething problems. So we contacted the building company saying, you need to sort this out, the toilet's not working. and they came and investigated, and they had some guys dig a hole in our back garden to access the pipes, which were going nowhere. They were not even connected to a sewer. The pipes literally just ended in the middle of the garden, like in the soil. So that had to be fixed. I remember that was kind of disgusting actually, but luckily that got sorted out quite quickly. So we were quite happy living there and kind of making our little life, but it was a very tiny house, and before long our attention started to stray to a nearby housing development called Sunningdale, also in Tableview. It was a Garden Cities development, and Garden Cities houses are top quality, well designed, and very desirable. And we used to drive through this neighborhood, and there were sections of houses that were all different pastel colors. There were pink houses, like a light sugar pink. There were white houses. There were pale green houses. We just thought it was the cutest thing and the smartest houses. We thought they were fantastic. And so we started looking at our finances and juggling things, and realized that we could afford to buy one. So we put down a deposit, I believe, and we chose which kind of plan we wanted, like which house and where, and that house was going to be built, and we sold our previous house. So our first house we only lived in for 2 years and 4 months before we moved out. There was a gap between selling that house, which sold really quickly, I can't remember for how much, and when our new house was going to be completed. The new house, I believe, we paid $210,000 for, but there was a gap between when we had to move out and when we could move in. So we moved in to my mom's house. She lived in Summer Greens, which was a housing development not in Tableview, a little bit further out, and we had a bedroom in her house. My younger sister was also living with my mom at the time. My parents had split up by then. So Grant and I had a bedroom with our bed and our TV. We didn't have a whole lot else. I don't even know where we put it, probably in his parents' garage or something, you know, the bits and pieces that we did have, because we were like jammed into this room. And we lived there for 3 months. It was so kind of my mum to just let us stay there. We obviously saved money during that time, but we could also help her out with bills and things. But it was challenging, I think, for all of us. It's really hard to have moved out of home and kind of for over 2 years just being Grant and I running our own home, and then to move back in with a parent. That's really, really difficult. I'm sure for her as well, partly because we were taking over her bedroom and she moved into a smaller room while we were there. Big upheaval for everybody. We couldn't wait for our house to be completed and we could move into it, and it was so fun to watch the progress of that happening. But one house related memory I do have is, you know, Grant's a prankster. My younger sister had all these posters all over her walls in her bedroom, like, you know what it's like for teens. Like, she was all about the Backstreet Boys, and she had all these posters like plastering her walls. And she was out one day and Grant went in there and he turned all of the posters upside down, like removed them and then stuck them back on upside down, and then listened when she came home. Took her a little while to notice, and then we just heard her go, "Oh man," because she realized she'd have to turn them all the right way around again. Although I would have made Grant do it if I was her. But anyway, so while we were living with my mum, we would drive over to Tableview periodically and watch the progress on our house. And it was so exciting again to see things coming together, and to see the walls go up and to see the roof go on, and eventually the doors and windows were on and we had to like just peer in them. We couldn't walk about inside the house. Super exciting. And eventually it was ready for us to move in. So this house was a yellow house. It was on 8 Cherry Hills in Sunningdale. Here's a picture of how it looked when we moved in. And here's actually a picture from Google Maps Street View, which shows how it looks now. So it's no longer yellow, but we loved it. We thought we were so posh. We had this double garage, we had a gate, so people had to like buzz on an intercom to be let in. So a little bit of extra security, which is important in South Africa. We had a section, or a plot of land that it was on, was about 600 square meters. So it was a good sized backyard, and every single person who came to visit and saw the house for the first time and walked into the backyard, every single person said, "Where are you going to put the pool?" We never did put a pool in because we were only in that house for a year, but I'll get to that in a minute. So this house had an entrance hallway, and then on the right there was a living room, and then on the left there was a dining room. Like, we'd never had a separate dining space, and the kitchen, and then down the corridor there was a bathroom, 3 bedrooms, and an ensuite shower room. and the rooms were good sizes. The master bedroom was quite big. It had built-in cupboards or like wardrobes, and it had a separate door like onto the patio. We were just made up. We thought this was the business. Our first house had kind of felt like playing house, but this house we felt like grown-ups. We got rid of our kind of secondhand couches, and we bought these 2 couches in hunter green with like a red and a gold line through them, and we had navy blue curtains. Very 90s. You can see my friend Amanda on the couch with her daughter. This is what the living room looked like, and we had 2 of those couches, and then in the corner between them we had a pine table, and it had like a wrought iron candlestick on it. We had a rug that was way too small, and we had a potted plant, a potted ficus called Benjamin. And that was our living room. And then the hallway was literally just like a landing strip as you came in the front door, but the hallway floor, the kitchen, and both bathrooms, when we came to select the tiles, when we were like picking out our finishes for the house, we asked them to just leave them untiled, because we wanted to put in granite tiles, and that wasn't an option. So we said just leave the tiles. We don't want to pick a tile and then have to rip it out to put in granite. So that was untiled. They were just like bare concrete for a while until we found what we wanted. All the carpets were grey again, and the tiles we found were large. They're probably like just over a foot. I don't know, they're maybe like 40 or 50 centimeter square black glossy granite tiles, and we got them as seconds because not all of them matched. Some of them are a bit lighter than the others, but we were splitting it up into 4 different areas, so this was like totally fine with us. So we felt very posh with our black granite floors in those rooms when we had that done. Moving into the dining room, we did not have dining furniture. We had a plastic table. You can see Grant here with a rescue bird. We had plastic patio furniture as our dining room set, and I did buy these like blue and green and yellow pattern curtains, which aren't they reminiscent of the hideous curtains that were in this house when we moved into it? But at the time I loved these curtains, so we'll go with it. The kitchen had white cabinets and white countertops. You can see the burglar bars on the windows and the security gate on the door, and I do not miss those kind of things, but hashtag life in South Africa. I remember buying this lime washed furniture that I just thought this was the best thing ever. These bedside tables, you can see me tucked up into bed here, and we also got a matching chest of drawers that went into the spare room, and we had a friend give us a reclaimed wood shelf that was in the dining room. I remember that. And the garden, there was nothing. It was like a bare plot of land. We did have turf laid or grass laid, and then I decided to try my hand at gardening for the first time ever, and I was a little bit like overwhelmed because I was a complete newbie. And I started off with this little section between two, well, like in a little alcove where the window was for the living room. So you can see me here pottering with my little garden where I planted pansies and marigolds and I don't know what all. We also planted broccoli, I think, but we thought, oh, this is convenient to have it by the back door. But looking back, like, that was the shadiest spot. It's never going to grow there. We had no success. This is the back. It completely flooded constantly until we had a French drain put in. It was ridiculous, and it was shady and it was cold there, so I was never going to grow vegetables there, but I thought I would try anyway because I didn't know any better. So we lived in that house for a year only, like I said. Grant came home about 6 months after we'd moved in with a bright idea to go to England, and I was not interested. We'd just moved into this house. I hadn't finished like decorating. I'd barely started, and we had job security, which was like a big deal. He was starting to work for his dad's business, so there was potential there to grow the business and to progress, and I did not want to move to England. And he talked me into it. He said, we'll just go for a while, we'll get British passports, we'll like save loads of money. So 6 months later we moved out of the house, rented it out, and moved to England. But that's a whole nother video, so come back next time for the next video in this series, which is all of our homes in England. I hope you found it interesting to hear about our homes and some of my memories in them in South Africa. I promise these videos will get more interesting as we kind of moved on to learning how to DIY and decorate and have some adventures with our houses. But to start with, we were poor and we were a little bit clueless. It has been fun for me to look back on kind of the beginning and my first few homes. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. Like I said, please check back once the video has been uploaded, I will put a link here to the next one in the series, and I will link them all down below as well. Check back for the next one, and I think you'll find it interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.